The crystal chandelier cast fractured light across Rosalyn Chen's face as she stood on the auction platform, her midnight blue dress clinging to her like a second skin. 24 years old, and she had never felt more exposed. The room smelled of expensive cologne and older money, whiskey and desperation masquerading as power. Her hands trembled at her sides. Somewhere in the apartment she had left behind, her mother lay dying, each breath a countdown Rosalyn couldn't stop. The medical bills had piled higher than hope. This was her choice. Her only choice. "Rosalyn is new to our community," Alina announced beside her, the words dripping with implication. An artist with refined sensibility and natural grace, the bidding erupted like wildfire. 50,075. The numbers climbed, detached from reality, from the girl standing under harsh lights, trying not to shake apart. Each bid was a hammer strike against her chest. She forced herself to breathe. To survive the next 60 seconds. 150,000. 250.
Ow.
Then a voice from the shadows, dark as smoke, cold as winter rain. 500,000. The ballroom fell silent. Rosalyn's heart stopped, then kicked against her ribs like something trying to escape. She squinted past the spotlight, searching for the man who had just bought her with a single sentence. All she could see was a tall silhouette in the corner, perfectly still, radiating control like a gravitational force. Alina's hand tightened on her arm. "Sold," she announced, and Rosalyn heard her own fate sealed in that single word. The crowd parted as he approached, each footstep deliberate, purposeful. He moved through the room like he owned not just the space but the very air inside it. When he finally stepped into the light, Rosalyn forgot how to breathe. He was younger than she expected, maybe 35, with sharp features carved from marble and ice. Dark hair, darker eyes that seemed to see through skin and bone, straight into the broken parts of her soul. His suit probably cost more than her entire year's rent. A thin scar traced his left cheekbone, the only imperfection on an otherwise flawless mask. He stopped in front of her, close enough that she could smell cedar and something metallic underneath. His gaze traveled over her face with clinical precision, cataloging every fear she couldn't hide. "I'm Adrian Volkov," he said. His accent was slight, Eastern European, buried under years of American polish. "You belong to me for the evening." The word should have terrified her. Instead, something in his tone, in the careful way he kept his distance, sparked a different reaction. Curiosity? Confusion? "I'm Rosalyn." Her voice came out steadier than she felt. "I don't belong to anyone." His mouth curved, not quite a smile. "We'll see." He offered his arm. She took it because refusing felt more dangerous than accepting. His muscles were rigid beneath the expensive fabric. As they walked toward a private alcove, she felt every eye in the room following them. Judging, assuming, knowing things about her she didn't even know about herself yet. Adrian guided her to a leather booth in the corner, away from prying eyes. A server materialized with champagne neither of them had ordered. When they were alone, he leaned back and studied her with unsettling intensity. "You've never done this before?" he stated. "Not a question." Rosalyn's face burned. "Is it that obvious?" "Everything about you screams innocence." He tilted his head. "Which makes me wonder what desperation brought you here." She shouldn't tell him, shouldn't give him ammunition. But something in his directness demanded equal honesty. "My mother is dying. Cancer. The treatments cost more than I'll make in 5 years. I needed the money. So here I am, bought and paid for." Adrian's expression didn't change, but something flickered behind his eyes. Recognition, maybe, or memory. "Here's what's going to happen," he said, his voice dropping lower. "We're going to sit here for exactly 2 hours. We'll have dinner. We'll talk about nothing important. When the time is up, I'll escort you out, give you the money, and you'll never see me again." "That's all?" Rosalyn blinked. "What?" "I'm not interested in what you think I paid for." His jaw tightened. "Consider it charity if that makes you feel better. Or a business transaction that requires nothing more than your presence at this table." Relief flooded through her, followed immediately by suspicion. "Why would you spend that much money just to sit and talk?" "Because I can." He lifted his champagne glass. And because you remind me of someone who made a similar choice once. She didn't survive it. Maybe you will. Before Rosalyn could process that, before she could ask what he meant, a woman's voice cut through the moment like breaking glass. Adrian Volkov. I should have known you'd be here. Rosalyn turned to see a striking woman in red approaching their table. She was beautiful in a predatory way, all sharp edges and calculated grace. But it was the hatred in her eyes as she looked at Adrian that made Rosalyn's blood run cold. Adrian's face went completely blank. Veronica, still buying broken things, I see? Tell me, does this one know what you really are? Does she know what happened to the last girl you tried to save? Adrian stood slowly, his body coiled tight. Walk away or what? Veronica laughed, bitter and sharp. You'll destroy me like you destroyed her. Too late. You already did that. She turned to Rosalyn, her expression almost pitying. Run while you still can, sweetheart. Adrian Volkov doesn't save anyone. He collects damaged souls and watches them break. She walked away, leaving silence in her wake. Rosalyn stared at Adrian, whose mask had finally cracked to reveal something raw and wounded underneath. Who was she talking about? Rosalyn whispered. Who did you lose? Adrian's hands clenched into fists on the table. When he finally looked at her, his eyes held an abyss of pain. My sister, he said quietly. 3 years ago, she stood where you stood tonight. And 6 months later, she was dead. The words hung between them like shattered glass. Adrian's sister, dead. Rosalyn felt the weight of his confession settle into her bones. They sat in his car now, black Mercedes that smelled of leather and ghosts. Rain hammered against the windows, turning the city outside into watercolor blurs. Adrian gripped the steering wheel but hadn't started the engine. His knuckles were white. You don't have to tell me, Rosalyn said softly, though every part of her wanted to know. Her name was Katya. His voice was hollow. She was 19. Brilliant. Full of life. Then our father's company collapsed. The debt collectors came. She thought she could fix it by selling herself to the highest bidder at one of these events. Rosalyn's throat tightened. What happened? The man who won her was charming at first, generous. He paid off half our debts, kept her in a gilded cage. Adrian's jaw clenched. Then he started asking for more. Things she didn't want to give. When she refused, he made her life hell. Blackmailed her. Threatened her. She couldn't escape. 6 months later, I found her in the bathtub. Empty pill bottles on the floor. The rain grew louder. Rosalyn reached out, her hand hovering over his before finally touching it. His skin was ice cold. I'm sorry, she whispered, knowing the words were useless. I tried to find him afterward. Make him pay. But men like that, they have lawyers, connections, power. Adrian finally looked at her, his eyes dark with rage and grief. So now, I come to these auctions. I outbid everyone. I give the women their money and let them go. It's the only way I can sleep at night. Understanding crashed over Rosalyn like a wave. You're trying to save them. I'm trying not to watch them die. He pulled his hand away, creating distance again. But it doesn't work. I can't save everyone. Can't even save myself. Rosalyn studied his profile, the hard line of his jaw, the scar that told stories he wouldn't speak. Then let me save myself. But help me understand how. Adrian turned to her sharply. What? The money you gave me tonight, it's enough for my mother's next 3 treatments. But after that, she swallowed hard. I need to learn how to survive in this world without selling pieces of myself I can't get back. You know these people? This system? Teach me? Absolutely not. Adrian started the engine. I'm taking you home. Tomorrow you forget this night ever happened. I can't forget. Her voice broke. My mother is dying, Adrian. Even with your money, I'm drowning. If I go back to that auction house, next time might be worse. Next time might be someone like the man who destroyed your sister. His hands tightened on the wheel. The car didn't move. Please, Rosalyn pressed. You said I remind you of someone who didn't survive. Help me be the one who does. The silence stretched so long she thought he wouldn't answer. Then, 3 months. I'll teach you how to navigate this world, how to protect yourself, how to spot the dangerous ones. You'll learn to use their rules against them. He turned to face her fully. But you do exactly what I say. No questions. No arguments. If you break my rules, we're done. Understood? Rosalyn nodded, feeling like she'd just signed a contract written in blood. Could Adrian put the car in drive? We start tomorrow. 7 a.m. Don't be late the next morning. Rosalyn stood outside an elegant townhouse in a neighborhood she'd only seen in magazines. Her coffee shop uniform felt ridiculous here. She checked the address 3 times before ringing the bell. Adrian opened the door wearing a black t-shirt and jeans. Without the suit, he looked younger, more dangerous. A tattoo peeked out from under his sleeve, Cyrillic letters she couldn't read. "You're early," he said. "Good. Come in." The townhouse interior was minimalist and cold. Steel and glass and empty spaces. No photographs, no warmth. It felt like a place someone existed in but didn't live. "First lesson," Adrian said, leading her to a sitting room. "Information is currency. The men at these events, they have weaknesses. Find them, exploit them, but never, ever let them know yours." He pulled out a laptop and opened files on various men. Faces Rosalyn recognized from the auction. Marcus Chen, shipping magnate, married with 3 kids. His weakness is his reputation. He'll pay anything to keep his affairs quiet. Jonathan Price, tech billionaire, collects art and artists. He wants to feel cultured, sophisticated. Feed his ego, and he'll open his wallet. Real estate developer with mob connections. The most dangerous one. If he ever approaches you, you run. Don't walk. Run. Rosalyn absorbed every word, every detail. But something nagged at her. "Why are you really doing this?" she asked. "It's not just about your sister, is it?" Adrian's expression darkened. "What makes you say that?" "Because you're punishing yourself." She met his gaze. "Every woman you save, you're trying to save her. But it never works. So you keep trying, keep bleeding yourself dry, because the pain is all you have left of her?" The slap of truth hung in the air. Adrian stood abruptly, turning away. "Get out." "Adrian, I didn't mean to. I said, get out." His voice cracked like a whip. Rosalyn grabbed her bag, heart racing. She was at the door when his phone rang. He answered it, his face going pale. "When?" he demanded. "Then I'll be right there." He hung up and looked at Rosalyn with something like horror. That was the hospital. "Your mother, she collapsed. They're saying ours, maybe less." The world tilted. Rosalyn couldn't breathe. "Need to go." "I need to." She couldn't finish the sentence. "I'll drive you." Adrian grabbed his keys. "Come on." They raced through the city, Rosalyn's hands shaking so badly she couldn't fasten her seatbelt. Adrian reached over and did it for her, his touch surprisingly gentle, at the hospital. Rosalyn ran through sterile corridors until she found her mother's room. Mrs. Chen looked smaller than ever. Her skin paper-thin, her breathing labored. "Mom?" Rosalyn took her hand. "I'm here. I'm here." Mrs. Chen's eyes fluttered open. "My beautiful girl." Her voice was barely a whisper. "I'm so proud of you. Whatever you had to do, whatever sacrifices you made, I forgive you. I love you. Don't talk like that. You're going to be fine. I have money for the treatments. You're going to be fine." Her mother smiled sadly. "Some things money can't fix, sweetheart." Adrian stood in the doorway watching. Something in his expression had changed, softened, broken open. "I'll give you privacy," he said quietly and left. Rosalyn stayed with her mother as the sun set. Holding her hand, memorizing every detail of her face. When the monitors finally flatlined, when the doctor called time of death, Rosalyn didn't cry. She couldn't. The grief was too big to fit inside her body. She walked out of the room like a ghost, found Adrian waiting in the hallway. He looked at her face and understood immediately. Without a word, he pulled her into his arms. And finally, Rosalyn shattered, sobbing against his chest while he held her together. This stranger, who had lost his sister, who understood the specific weight of failing to save someone you loved. "I'm sorry," he murmured into her hair. I'm so sorry." When her tears finally ran dry, Rosalyn pulled back and looked at him with new eyes. "Teach me everything," she said, her voice steel and smoke. "Not to survive. To win. I want to make them all pay." Adrian searched her face, seeing the transformation. The innocence burned away, replaced with something harder, sharper. "Then we start tonight," he said. "And God help anyone who gets in our way." 3 weeks passed like a fever dream. Rosalyn stood in Adrian's townhouse wearing a designer dress that cost more than her mother's funeral. Her hair was perfect, her makeup flawless, her smile practiced in mirrors until it looked real. She barely recognized herself anymore. "Better," Adrian circled her, examining. "But your eyes still give you away. You need to learn to lie with those too." "I'm trying." "Try harder." He stopped in front of her, close enough that she could feel his heat. "Tonight, you meet Marcus Chen. He thinks you're an art consultant interested in his private collection. Your job is to get him to trust you, to open up, find the weakness." Rosalyn nodded. Over the past weeks, Adrian had transformed her, taught her to read body language, to listen for the lies between words, to weaponize charm like a blade. But every lesson came with distance. He touched her only when necessary, spoke to her like a trainer with a student, kept walls between them built from grief and guilt. She hated how much she wanted to tear those walls down. "What if he wants more than conversation?" she asked. "He will. They always do." Adrian's jaw tightened. "That's when you mention me. Say you're under my protection." He'll back off. "They all do, because they're afraid of you, because they're smart." The restaurant was French, expensive, intimate. Marcus Chen was exactly as Adrian described. 50s silver hair, wedding ring glinting in candlelight. He smiled at Rosalyn like she was dessert. "You're even more beautiful than Adrian suggested," Marcus said, pouring wine she wouldn't drink. Rosalyn forced a smile. "He speaks highly of your art collection, particularly the Rothko." They talked about art, about investments, about nothing important. Rosalyn laughed at his jokes, touched his hand lightly, played the game exactly as Adrian taught her. And all the while, she watched for the crack in his armor. It came during the third course. Marcus's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, and his whole body tensed. "Problem?" Rosalyn asked innocently. "My daughter. She's at that age where everything is a crisis." But his eyes said different. Said fear. "How old?" 16. Thinks she knows everything." He took a long drink of wine. "Gets into trouble constantly. I've paid off 3 scandals this year alone." There it was. The weakness. Not his wife. His daughter. The one thing that could destroy his perfect reputation. Rosalyn filed the information away and steered the conversation elsewhere. When dinner ended, Marcus leaned in close. "I've enjoyed this immensely. Perhaps we could continue somewhere more private?" "I'm flattered, but I'm actually seeing someone. Adrian Volkov, exclusively." Marcus pulled back like she'd struck him. "I see, I didn't realize. It's new. But he's rather possessive." She smiled apologetically. "I hope you understand." "Of course. Give Adrian my regards." Rosalyn left the restaurant feeling dirty and triumphant. She'd played the game and won. But the victory tasted like ashes. Adrian was waiting in the car outside. How did it go? His daughter. She's his weak point. He's terrified of scandal touching her. Rosalyn slid into the passenger seat. "I got everything you wanted." "Good." But Adrian didn't look pleased. He looked troubled. "What's wrong?" "You're getting too good at this." He started driving, his hands tight on the wheel. "Too comfortable with the lies? Isn't that what you wanted? Isn't that what you taught me?" "I taught you to survive, not to become one of them." Anger flared hot in Rosalyn's chest. "You don't get to judge me. You created this. You turned me into this. I know." His voice was raw. "That's what scares me." They drove in tense silence until Adrian pulled up to a different address. Not her apartment. Not his townhouse. Somewhere new. "Where are we?" "Somewhere we can talk. Actually talk." He got out of the car. The building was an art gallery, closed for the night. Adrian had keys. He led her through dark rooms filled with paintings she'd studied in school, artists she'd dreamed of being. You said you had an art degree, Adrian said, stopping in front of a massive abstract canvas. What happened to that dream? Life happened. Bills. Reality. My mother. Rosalyn stared at the painting, feeling something crack inside her. I used to want to create something beautiful. Now, I just want to survive. You're doing more than surviving. You're drowning. Adrian turned to face her. And I'm the one holding you underwater. Stop it. Rosalyn's voice shook. Stop trying to save me. Stop trying to fix your guilt by protecting me. I don't need a savior, Adrian. I need a partner. I need to get out of this world before it destroys you. Too late. She stepped closer to him, closing the distance he always maintained. I'm already destroyed. We both are. The only question is whether we burn alone or together. Adrian's control finally cracked. He grabbed her face with both hands and kissed her, desperate and drowning. Rosalyn kissed back with 3 weeks of tension and grief and anger, her fingers tangling in his hair. Her body pressing against his like she could merge them into one person who hurt less when they broke apart, both breathing hard. Adrian rested his forehead against hers. This is a mistake, he whispered. I don't care. I'll ruin you, then ruin me. She kissed him again, softer this time. At least I'll feel something other than empty. They stayed in that gallery until dawn, wrapped around each other, trading scars and secrets and kisses that tasted like salvation and damnation mixed together. When the sun finally rose, Adrian pulled away and looked at her with something like terror. This changes everything, he said. I know. We can't go back to how things were. I don't want to. Adrian stood and held out his hand. Then we do this together, partners. But we do it my way. We take down the people who profit from this system. Starting with the man who destroyed my sister. Rosalyn took his hand, feeling the shift in the air between them. Who is he? Dmitry Kozlov, the one I told you to run from. Adrian's expression was ice and fury. He's hosting a private party next week. Very exclusive. Very dangerous. We're going to infiltrate it, gather evidence, and burn his empire to the ground. What if we get caught? Then we go down fighting. Pulled her close. Are you with me? Rosalyn thought of her mother, of Adrian's sister, of all the girls who didn't make it out, of the person she used to be and the person she was becoming. I'm with you. They left the gallery as the city woke up. 2 broken people planning revenge. Neither of them saw the car parked across the street. The woman with red lipstick watching them with calculating eyes. Veronica smiled to herself and made a phone call. Dmitry, it's me. I have information you'll want to hear. Adrian Volkov is planning something, and I know exactly how to stop him. Asterisk, the mansion sprawled across a private estate like a monument to excess. Dmitry Kozlov's party was invitation only, security everywhere, cameras tracking every angle. Rosalyn felt them watching as she walked through the entrance on Adrian's arm, her red dress cut dangerously low, a recording device hidden in her jewelry. Remember the plan? Adrian murmured against her ear. Get him talking. I'll handle the rest. Inside, the party was all champagne and cocaine, laughter with sharp edges. Rosalyn recognized faces from the auction, from Adrian's files. Predators in expensive suits. Women who had learned to smile through anything. Dmitry Kozlov stood in the center like a king holding court. 50-something, built like a boxer, eyes that stripped you bare. When he saw Adrian, his smile turned wolfish. Adrian Volkov. I heard you might show up. His accent was thick Russian, unapologetic. And who is this delicious creature? Rosalyn Chen, my associate. Adrian's hand tightened on her waist, possessive. Associate.
Oh.
Dmitry laughed, the sound like breaking bones. Is that what we call them now? I remember when your sister was your father's associate, before she became mine. Adrian went rigid. Rosalyn felt murder radiating off him in waves. Careful, Dmitry, Adrian said softly. You're speaking about the dead. The dead don't care about words. Dmitry took a glass of vodka from a passing server. But they teach excellent lessons about consequences. Your sister learned that the hard way. What did you just say? Adrian's voice dropped to something lethal. Dimitri's smile widened. Did you really think it was suicide? Sweet, naive Adrian. Still playing hero after all these years? Your sister didn't kill herself. She was going to expose me. Tell the authorities about my business operations. So I helped her make a different choice. The room seemed to tilt. Rosalyn grabbed Adrian's arm, feeling him shake with rage. You murdered her, Adrian breathed. I eliminated a problem. There's a difference. Dimitri leaned closer. And now you've brought another problem into my house. How thoughtful. I was running low on entertainment. Security guards appeared from nowhere, grabbing him, restraining him. Rosalyn screamed as they dragged him away. She tried to follow, but Dimitri caught her wrist, his grip iron. Not so fast. Beautiful. You and I need to have a conversation. He pulled her through the crowd, down a hallway, into a private office, locked the door. Rosalyn's heart hammered against her ribs. Let me go. Why? So you can run to your broken hero? Dimitri circled her like a shark. I know what you're doing. The recording device, the plan to expose me, did you really think I wouldn't find out? Ice flooded Rosalyn's veins. I don't know what you're talking about. Please. I've been doing this for 30 years. You think you're the first to try? He pulled out his phone and showed her a photo. Adrian unconscious, tied to a chair, blood running down his face. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to give me the recording device? You're going to tell me everyone Adrian has contacted? And if you cooperate, I might let him live. Rosalyn's hands shook. And if I don't, then I'll kill him slowly. Make him watch while I break you, the same way I broke his sister. Then kill him anyway. Dimitri's smile was poison. Choose quickly. My patience is limited. The door burst open. Veronica stepped in, her red dress matching Rosalyn's, her expression triumphant. Did I miss the fun part? Veronica asked. Rosalyn stared. You're working with him? Working for him? There's a difference. Veronica walked to Dimitri's side, slid her arm around him. Did you really think I showed up at that auction by chance? I've been watching Adrian for years, waiting for him to make a move. And you, sweet, innocent Rosalyn, made it so easy. He fell for you like a stone. Dropped all his guards? You set us up. Rosalyn felt betrayed in ways she didn't have words for. I saved Adrian from himself. He was getting too close, asking too many questions about Katya's death. So Dimitri and I gave him a distraction. Veronica's laugh was cruel. And you played your part perfectly. Fell in love with him? Made him weak. Now he's exactly where we want him. Dimitri checked his watch. Enough talking. Give me the device, or I start cutting pieces off your boyfriend. Rosalyn's mind raced. The recording device in her necklace had captured everything. Dimitri confessing to murder. But what good was evidence if they were both dead? She thought of Adrian's sister, of her mother, of all the women who didn't survive, of the person she used to be, innocent and hopeful and naive. That girl was gone. In her place stood someone harder, someone who knew how to play the game. Rosalyn reached up slowly, unclasped her necklace. You want the device? Here, she threw it at Dimitri's face. He caught it, laughing. Smart girl. See how easy that was? There's just one problem, Rosalyn said, her voice steady despite her racing heart. That's not the only recording device. Dimitri's smile faltered. What, did you really think we'd be that stupid? Adrian wired this entire room 3 days ago. Every word you just said, every confession, it's all being recorded. Transmitted live to his lawyer, to the FBI, to every news outlet in the city. Veronica's face went white. You're bluffing. Am I? Rosalyn pulled out her phone, showed them the live stream. Thousands of viewers watching. Comments flooding in. You just confessed to murder in front of the entire internet. It's over. Dimitri's expression turned murderous. He reached for something in his desk. A gun? Then you're both dead. The office door exploded inward. Federal agents flooded in, weapons drawn. Dmitri Kozlov, you're under arrest for murder, conspiracy, human trafficking. Chaos erupted. Dmitri fought, screaming in Russian. Veronica tried to run, but agents grabbed her. Through it all, Rosalyn stood frozen, shaking, barely believing she was alive. An agent led her out, through the mansion now swarming with law enforcement. She found Adrian in the hallway, paramedics cleaning the blood from his face. When he saw her, relief and something deeper flooded his expression. "You did it," he said hoarsely. "You brilliant, insane woman. You actually did it." Rosalyn collapsed into his arms. "I thought they were going to kill you. I thought they were going to kill you." He held her so tight she could barely breathe. "God, Rosalyn, when Dmitri took you, I've never been that terrified." "Not even when I found Katya," he confessed. "On camera, everything." She pulled back to look at him. "Your sister, she didn't kill herself. She was murdered. And now he's going to pay." Adrian's eyes filled with tears he'd been holding back for 3 years. "She didn't give up. She fought back, just like you taught me to." They held each other as dawn broke over the mansion, police lights painting everything red and blue. The nightmare was over. Dmitri and Veronica were in custody. Justice was finally coming, but as Adrian kissed Rosalyn's forehead, as they walked toward the waiting ambulance together, neither of them saw the message on Dmitri's confiscated phone. A text from an unknown number. Phase 1 complete. They think they've won. Perfect. And in a penthouse across the city, someone watched the news coverage with a satisfied smile. This wasn't the end of the game. It was only the beginning. 2 months later, Rosalyn stood in the art gallery she'd once visited with Adrian. But this time, the paintings on the walls were hers. Her first solo exhibition. The invitation had read, "Broken Things Made Beautiful. Works by Rosalyn Chen." The gallery hummed with collectors and critics. People actually buying her art, seeing value in the pain she'd transformed into color and canvas. Her mother would have been proud. Adrian stood in the corner, watching her with those dark eyes that had seen too much and somehow still found wonder. He wore a suit, the scar on his cheek catching the light. In his hand, small velvet box he kept touching like a talisman, but Rosalyn felt the unease before she saw its source. The woman who entered was striking. 60s silver hair and a perfect chignon, power radiating from every movement. She walked straight to Rosalyn with purposeful grace. "Miss Chen, your work is extraordinary." Her accent was cultured, European. "I'm Katerina Volkov, Adrian's mother." Rosalyn's blood ran cold. Adrian had never mentioned his mother. Never suggested she was alive or interested or anything but absent from his. Destroyed family, Adrian appeared at Rosalyn's side instantly, his body rigid. "What are you doing here?" "Supporting my son's girlfriend's exhibition," Katerina smiled, but it was ice. "Is that so strange?" "You haven't spoken to me in 3 years. Not since Katya's funeral. Because you blamed me for what happened. For the debt. For everything." Katerina's expression flickered with something like pain. "But I've been watching, Adrian. Watching you destroy yourself, trying to save every broken girl you find. Trying to fix what you couldn't fix with your sister." Adrian's fists clenched. "Get out. Not until you hear the truth." Katerina turned to Rosalyn. "Did he tell you why the family business collapsed? Why Katya felt desperate enough to sell herself?" "Mother, don't, it was me." Katerina's voice cracked. "I made risky investments trying to expand. I lost everything. The debt was mine. And when Katya tried to fix it, when she went to that auction, I let her. I was too proud to stop her, too ashamed to admit my mistakes." Tears streaked down her perfect makeup. "She died because I failed. And Adrian has spent 3 years punishing himself for my sins." Adrian stood frozen, his world reorganizing around this truth. "I knew Dmitri would come after you eventually," Katerina continued. "So I used my connections, my remaining resources. I'm the one who tipped off the FBI. I'm the one who made sure you had backup at that mansion. I've been protecting you from the shadows because I already lost 1 child. I won't lose another." "Let me think." Adrian's voice broke. "All this time I thought you blamed me. Hated me for not saving her. I blamed myself." Katerina reached for his hand. I still do. But watching you with Rosalyn, seeing you fight not just to survive but to live again, it gave me hope that maybe we could find our way back to each other. That maybe forgiveness was possible. Adrian pulled his mother into a fierce embrace, both of them crying in the middle of the gallery. Rosalyn stepped back, giving them space, her own eyes burning. When they finally separated, Katerina touched Adrian's face gently. Your sister would be so proud of who you've become. And so am I. She left with quiet dignity, leaving Adrian and Rosalyn alone among the paintings. I need air, Adrian said roughly. They walked out to the gallery's rooftop terrace. The city spread below them like a blanket of lights. The same city where they'd both been broken and somehow found each other in the wreckage. All this time, Adrian said quietly, I've been so focused on saving you, on keeping you from ending up like Katya, that I didn't realize you were saving me too. Rosalyn leaned against the railing. We saved each other. That's how it works. I don't deserve you. Good thing I don't care what you deserve. She turned to face him. I care what you choose. Every day. To fight. To live. To love me despite knowing how complicated and messy and broken everything is. Adrian pulled out the velvet box he'd been carrying. Opened it to reveal a simple ring, elegant and understated. I was going to wait. Make it romantic. But we've never done anything the conventional way. He took her hand. Rosalyn Chen, you walked into my life at my lowest point, and somehow you saw past the monster I thought I'd become. You trusted me to teach you survival, and instead, you taught me how to live. Will you marry me? Rosalyn's breath caught. We've known each other 2 months. We're both disasters. We have so much trauma to work through. I know. We'll probably fight constantly. Hurt each other. Struggle with everything. I know. I still haven't figured out who I am after everything that's happened. Then let's figure it out together. Adrian's eyes held hers. We've survived auctions and betrayals and men who tried to destroy us. We can survive happiness too. If you'll let me try to give it to you. Rosalyn thought about the girl she used to be, standing at her kitchen table drowning in medical bills and desperation. That girl had made an impossible choice that led her into darkness. But through that darkness, she'd found this complicated, damaged, beautiful man who understood her in ways no one else ever could. Yes, she whispered. God help us both. Yes. Adrian slid the ring onto her finger and kissed her like she was oxygen, and he'd been drowning for years. Maybe he had been. Maybe they both had. When they broke apart, Rosalyn rested her head against his chest, listening to his heartbeat steady and strong. What happens now? She asked. Now we build something new. Something that's ours. Not defined by our pain or our past. Adrian held her closer. We start a foundation. Use my money to help women escape situations like the one you were in. Like Katya was in. We turn our scars into shields for people who need them. Partnership. In every way. He smiled against her hair. Though I'm keeping the teaching sessions, you still need to work on lying with your eyes. Rosalyn laughed, the sound surprising them both. When was the last time she'd laughed? Really laughed. They stood on that rooftop as the city breathed below them. Two people who'd been shattered and put themselves back together with gold in the cracks. Not perfect. Not healed, but surviving. Fighting. Loving. Despite every reason not to. Inside the gallery, Rosalyn's paintings told stories of darkness transformed into light, of beauty found in broken things, of hope that persisted even when hope seemed impossible. And somewhere in heaven, maybe Katya and Mrs. Chen looked down and smiled, knowing their sacrifices hadn't been for nothing, that the people they'd loved had found each other and chosen to keep living, keep fighting, keep turning pain into something that could save others. Adrian took Rosalyn's hand, the ring catching moonlight. Ready to go home? He asked. Rosalyn looked at him, this man who'd bought her at an auction and somehow set her free, who'd seen her at her lowest and stayed, who'd taught her to survive and learned from her how to live. With you, she said. Always. They walked back inside together, toward a future neither of them had imagined possible 2 months ago. A future built not on innocence or perfection, but on honest scars and hard-won hope. And as the gallery door closed behind them, as they stepped into their new beginning, one truth remained crystal clear. Sometimes the darkest paths lead to the brightest destinations. Sometimes broken people make the strongest bonds. Sometimes the auction that nearly destroyed you brings you exactly where you needed to be. The end.